It's a brand new edition with Week 6 in the rearview mirror. It's Power Rankings, and it is presented by Energizer. Mike Yam, along with my friend Eric Edholm, who's doing a whole lot of work right now. You can check out his rankings, all 32 teams on NFL.com. There's a lot of different directions we can go, Eric, but maybe the best place to start is with our producer, Hytham, who said, I like it when it's murky. He's kind of getting what he wants right now because it is a little murky trying to figure out who these top teams are.
I asked myself, who is the best team in the NFL? And then I asked it again, and then a third time. Every time one of those top teams lost this week, I had to recalibrate everything. So It was a chore, but it was fun. And I think people will have something to talk about after they see where I put certain teams.
Okay, so we have some history here as we get you our rankings. And the history is the number one team that moves up 3 spots. They are a 5-1 squad. It is the Tampa Bay Bucks. In the history of Power Rankings, Eric has never had them sitting in this position. The Lions, they drop a spot to 4-2. We got the Seahawks, at 3. The Bills, I think there might be some pushback on this one based off of these back-to-back losses for them. The Packers at 5. The Eagles free fall 4 spots to 6. You got the Rams at 7 and the Colts at 8. Time for Power Moves. It is presented by Energizer. Eric, I want to focus in on this number one team. I read your column on NFL.com. I'm paraphrasing here where you describe it as maybe not a clear-cut number one. I would say it is a clear cut. I think where you have the Bucks is accurate. They should be the number one team. They have 5 wins on the season. There's no excuses with this team. It doesn't matter who's hurt. They're still delivering. When another team is banged up and they lose, we go, they're missing 1 or 2 players here. It is like a revolving door at the wide receiver spot, even in the backfield for Baker Mayfield, who's probably good, at least in pace right now, on pace to be the MVP of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of gave him a soft endorsement. Look, this is a team that I thought I picked preseason to get to the Super Bowl. I believed in Baker, still do, obviously even more after seeing him, uncork deep balls like this. And every week it seems to have a crazy scramble. So I definitely think you're right about the MVP case. Look, I mean, I'm sure there'll still be some Josh Allen love after his Monday struggles. Mahomes is kind of back on the rise, maybe a dark horse like Drake Maye, but, pound for pound, I think Baker's doing the job right now. And you mentioned the receivers, relying on the brothers Johnson, right? Tez and Cameron, not the biggest guys in the world, Cade Otton, etc. When they get their full complement of receivers back, which they're expected to, this could be a deadly team. But right now, they're going to have to sweat it out. And they've got a tough one coming up this week against the Lions in Detroit. So we'll see if this is a 1-week stay or if they're built to last.
And by the way, keep in mind here, this is not a fluffed up 5 wins. It's back-to-back weeks where we're talking about a Seahawks squad who we're buyers in. You actually have them 3 right now in your power rankings. And I know the Niners are banged up. By the way, I'm using that as excuse of injuries. I know they're banged up, but the Niners also a pretty good football team as well. And this sets up a really big Monday night matchup against the Detroit Lions, who you have sitting at number 2. Are you concerned right now with what you saw against Kansas City? Like, I can story in my mind a loss, and I know, once again, there's injuries on that defense, especially in that secondary. What concerned me was an inability to be effective on offense against KC's defense.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, look, they had this play at the beginning of the game there on 4th down. It looked like another brilliant Lions play, call back by penalty, settle for field goal. So in a game where the Chiefs made it kind of an 8-possession game, every possession counted quite a bit. Everyone counted a lot. The Chiefs relied on great red zone defense, key stops, 3rd downs, etc., 2-minute drill, and they pulled it off. I mean, when Goff hit Laporta for that touchdown, I thought, okay, here we go, buckle up. But it just never happened. Those next couple of drives didn't materialize. And, Patrick Mahomes played a great game. And that's one other worry I have with this Detroit team. More good than bad on defense this season. However, when you look at them against the Packers, against the Lamar-led Ravens, against Mahomes and the Chiefs, they're less effective. So yes, there are concerns on both sides, but I still believe in kind of the fabric of this operation, and I do believe they'll bounce back, including giving the Bucs all they can handle, I believe.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs in a couple of minutes here on Power Rankings because they deserve some love, especially when we're knocking on the door of a return from Rashee Rice. And I think this win puts them back into the conversation as one of the league's elite because I was kind of on the fence about it. The Seahawks, it feels, well, I don't want to say it feels. You're buying this team right now, sitting in the 3rd spot. Sell me on why you think that they deserve to be here.
Yeah, two close losses at home, and obviously they got to play better at Lumen Field. But when you see what Mike McDonald has done on the road, going 10-1, including 9 straight wins, it tells you something, right? They're able to translate the run game that's a big part of their success. Certainly the defense and the pressure that they create, even with the questions in the secondary, those things travel. They do well, right? But you also have Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith-Njigba both having very fine seasons. Smith-Njigba, you know, if you told me he was the best receiver in the NFL right now, I wouldn't push back a lot right now. Totally. He's certainly in the top 3 or 4, excellent at what he does. They have a well-rounded attack. They don't kill themselves with mistakes. They bounce back from that one poor effort last week against the Bucs defensively. So a lot of good with this team. You know, again, it's more of a synergistic thing. A lot of the pieces all kind of adding up together, as opposed to that one superstar player who just carries the whole operation. So that's a good thing, I think. And, you know, maybe 3 is a little higher than I expected to have them this week, but the way things shook out, that's where they're landing right now.
Is this a regional thing? Because I think the national landscape doesn't buy Seahawks at 3. I think you would get pushback depending on who you were talking to and where they're based. But to your point on JSN, if he's playing in a different market, and Seattle's a big market, but maybe on the other side of the country, you know, the reality is I think people would be talking about him as maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL. And I know there's quarterback issues right now in Minnesota and certainly in Cincinnati, which is why that Jamar Chase situation is a little bit different. But this guy deserves his flowers. And so does Sam Darnold.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, we've seen some tremendous performances this year from like Jonathan Taylor with the Colts and Jackson Smith-Njigba, Bijan Robinson in Atlanta. You know, in a year where a lot of the quarterbacks are injured or not in the running for MVP, maybe this is the year where we start thinking about a non-QB as MVP. Again, I digress. I get off my soapbox there. But Smith-Njigba, when they traded DK Metcalf, they had an idea of what he was capable of as a true number one. And Mike, you look around the league, there really aren't as many true number one receivers as we thought they were, or we think there should be probably. So he's one of a select few.
It's actually a great call, and I haven't heard too many people talk about that. You don't trade and get rid of a DK Metcalf if you don't have supreme confidence in JSN, and it clearly did. My confidence level on the Buffalo Bills right now, it's teetering a little bit. I think Atlanta's defense is real, right? So I'm like, okay, What I saw Monday night is one thing. They've owned this division, and the Patriots in the last game handling business against them. What's the concern that you have around Josh Allen's team?
Not often we see these guys in second place, but believe it or not, that's where they are right now, behind New England after that game in Week 6. So, yeah, I mean, the operation just seems broken, right? I mean, we're talking about James Cook having a pretty good night running the football, and they score 14 points and don't even get to 300 yards, even with Atlanta's defense playing at a high level. That's very un-Bills-like, especially in a dome. So, look, I mean, you could say it's 2 straight losses, and that's true, but I think it goes back farther than that. You look at the Miami game, the New Orleans game, they had their struggles in both, really not playing as efficiently as they should be offensively, and defensively, you saw in the first half, they were up against it, couldn't close it out, obviously in the second half either. And, you know, just the lack of weapons right now for Josh Allen. I mean, you know, Kincaid couldn't play, Palmer gets hurt. I think this bye week, you know, they're going to have to do some soul searching. It's possible that we look back a month or two from now and say, okay, that was a blip on a radar. They had to get over that stretch. They're going to get some reinforcements back from suspension and injury and things like that. That may all be true. But right now, the way you described them is absolutely right. And putting them at 4 is probably a lot higher than a lot of people will have them. I still think they're going to end up in that region, but right now it's looking like a problem.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't know if I could sell myself on Buffalo being 4 currently. By the way, fans in Atlanta, don't worry. We're going to give you guys some love in a little bit here. They were a significant mover in the power rankings. That's still to come. The Eagles, they're sitting at the top of the power rankings there for a couple weeks, and they continue to sort of drop. They moved to 6. I guess the same question applies to them. How concerned are you, as a team that's consistently getting outgained this season, that they are still one of the premier teams in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, right. The things offensively have not been totally right all season. Even if we saw some strides on Thursday, again, didn't really translate to the scoreboard or affect the game very much. But even if there were strides, it still isn't good enough. And, you take Jalen Carter off that defense, significant blow, but they shouldn't play that poorly. They shouldn't look that unprepared for the athleticism of Jackson Dart. I mean, they just played two pretty agile quarterbacks prior to that. So it surprised me a little that they sort of came out very flat defensively, flat offensively as well. Poor tackling, poor sort of attention to detail, I would say, and especially in those early drives. So, we've got 2 more games till the bye. Tough one at Minnesota, or an interesting one at the very least, and then a rematch against that Giants team. If they're not kind of back on the upswing, I'll tell you what, they're going to be a lot lower than 6 heading into the bye, given what we've seen recently.
Yeah, because I think you look in this division and it feels a little different and more up in the air than I think people would have imagined. You're right. They go on the road against Minnesota as their next opponent. It is an interesting matchup because of what the Vikings do defensively. Could create some problems for Jalen Hurts and this Eagles offense. All right, there is one team that has been balling so far this season. It's future champions, and it's presented by FanDuel. Odds to win the AFC South. Let's take a closer look. The team that has been coming on like gangbusters this year, the Colts, still the favorite. The Jags, right behind them at plus 165, plus 700, the Houston Texans, and the Tennessee Titans obviously making a change at the head coaching spot. They are plus 10,000, excuse me, there's an extra zero as I'm looking at my cheat sheet here, not 1,000, 10,000, and that certainly makes some sense. So let's dive in on this 8th team, and that is this Indianapolis Colts squad. I think you could have flipped, you have them 8th right now. I think you could have moved them up into the top 4 right behind Seattle at number 3. They're a pretty complete football team, Eric. I mean, what else do you want to see from them? Why not move them up ahead of the guys like the Eagles and the Bills?
I was prepared to, and I watched that game Sunday, and it was an uphill climb for them. I mean, against Jacoby Brissett in Arizona in their building, and so Daniel Jones threw an early pick, and that kind of got him off rhythm a little bit. Although they took the ball right back, and it was just tough sledding. And defensively, it worries me a little bit that a backup QB can come in and give them some trouble and have a chance to win the game at game's end there. So. I know it seems like every contender could use a cornerback right now. The Colts are certainly among those. I mean, the secondary right now feels a little thin, but offensively, leading the NFL in scoring, getting some help from their defense and special teams as well. But that offense has been chugging every single week. The 120-point game, everything else I think has been over 28. So points have not been a problem this season, but if they start running up against those elite teams that also can score, are they able to win those kinds of track meets? Are they able to go on the road and win those tough games? Those are the only questions I have with them right now. I love the operation, but Jacksonville and Houston are going to have a little something to say about this division too, I think.
Yeah, I think Jonathan Taylor should also be in that MVP conversation. I know it's typically a quarterback award, but he has been terrific. I thought when I had asked you about where you'd want to slot him, Eric, I thought you were going to mention their schedule and the fact that there's some room to really rise here. You were sort of baking it in. Miami, Denver, Tennessee, the Rams, Vegas, and Arizona. So it's not exactly like a slew of gangbusters here. So there is an opportunity for the Colts to continue to rise in the power rankings. Meanwhile, I'm here on power rankings. Kansas City handling business against a team that I thought was the best team in the NFL up until the matchup against Kansas City, and that's the Detroit Lions. Where does Eric put KC? The answer to that is coming up next.
Power Rankings is brought to you by Energizer. Still going.
Back here on Power Rankings, Eric at home and Mike Am with you, and all is right in the world in Kansas City, moving up 3 spots back into the top 10. They're sitting with a 500 record. They sit at number 9 in the Power Rankings. We'll talk Steelers in just a moment. They're at 10. The Broncos, they drop a spot despite a win, and boy, that was a tough one at times against the Jets in London. At 12, it's the Commanders who fall 3 spots. 13, it's the Jags who drop 2 spots. The Chargers remain even at 14. It's the Niners and the Patriots sitting at 15 and 16. Time for the Team of the Week, and it's presented by Truist. At number 9, Eric, we got a Kansas City team that all of a sudden offensively is looking like an offensive team that we had anticipated. 95 points they have scored over the last 3 games, most in a 3-game span since 2021. More reinforcements coming. Rashid Rice is going to be back coming off of that suspension. Do we just say, hey, we're good, Kansas City? This is a team that once again can make a real push and get to an AFC championship game and maybe even back to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, they've been up and down so far, right? And I tried to factor that in. I mean, having them at 9, look, would they be favored against more than 24 other teams? Probably, yeah. I think they might, but we still want to see a little more consistency. But obviously, this last game against the Lions was their best showing of the year, I think, considering the opponent and everything that was at stake coming off the Jaguars loss. And maybe we put too much into that loss too, right? That's a pretty functionally good team this year. All things said. So Mahomes really taking over. That's the guy we want to see. And now, like you said, the full complement of weapons, the most important part. Hollywood Brown has a couple scores. Worthy gets in the end zone early. You add Rice to that equation. They're going to be awfully tough to cover. I think you're going to see teams go zone and see Pat pick them apart, and we'll get back to that level of Chiefs offense that we expected prior to the last couple of years when things kind of slowed down a little bit. So is it going to be that way every week? Who knows? But they're back, I think.
Home game for them against the Raiders coming up at number 10, the Steelers. They actually moved 5 spots up, which is a positive here. I was sitting in the green room. We're watching 2 games on Monday Night Football. Steve Weich, I'm working with him. He goes, hey, who's the best team in the AFC? And I kind of paused, and I was like, I don't know if I'd say the Steelers, but is there a case for them right now sitting with this record?
We've seen strides offensively. We've seen strides defensively. The protection for Aaron Rodgers has gotten better. A lot of positive trends happening here, right? I mean, early in the season, nearly losing week 1 to the Jets, having kind of a sloppy game against the Patriots and then making a ton of mistakes and sort of just barely clawing by. So I had my doubts early. I had them in the teens and I kind of held back on them, but you keep winning games and Rodgers makes throws like this. DK Metcalf earning his investment, right? I mean, he's gotten in the end zone almost every game. So it's very encouraging. And if you just look at the big landscape, the last 3 weeks, the Steelers have won 2 games, lost none. The rest of the division combined 0-9. I mean, think about that. That alone shifts the divisional power in their direction. And obviously we know about Baltimore and Cincinnati, their struggles. The Browns aren't ready to compete yet, but the Steelers are showing that right now they are the most trustworthy club in that division.
I couldn't agree with you more. In a division that historically the last couple seasons we've said maybe is the best in the NFL, they match up against a Cincinnati team that's still trying to figure things out. So maybe padding that lead in that division. The Chargers, they are at 14 right now. This is a good opponent that they're going to be playing against the Colts. And to me, it's like a sort of a prove-it game. I don't know, you could talk about style points. They needed to come back to win against a struggling Miami team. I would push back and just say they got to win on the road, and they are so banged up. And Herbert, again, looked terrific.
Yeah, he did. I mean, look, he's rescued him time and time again this season. Kamani Vidal, I thought, had a really nice game filling in for Maye and Hampton. And, they caught him in training camp and were lucky to keep him on the practice squad. Ladd McConkey obviously making big plays too. This felt more like a breakdown by the Dolphins at the end of the game, and we saw it against the Patriots too. They've had trouble closing out contests this year, so I didn't want to give them too much credit, didn't give them a bump up. I'm worried about the depth, and I don't know if you saw that post-game video where Jim Harbaugh is celebrating the victory, and he's trying to kind of fire them up, and they all just seemed exhausted. And it's been a long run, right? They've had a tough stretch of games from Brazil to this point. A lot of travel, a lot of mental taxing going on, but if Herbert can stay upright, they have a chance. They still can compete with some of the best teams. I'm just a little shakier on them right now than where I was a year ago with this team.
I don't know how many people would have said Justin Herbert is in the elite category in the NFL before this season. And I'm a huge Justin Herbert fan. I'm starting to buy this a little bit. Like he's sort of single-handedly coming up with some critical throws in critical times. Right behind the Chargers are the Niners, sitting at number 15. Can we just end this conversation about Mac Jones replacing Brock Purdy at this point? Like, are we good? It's Brock's job.
I've given Mac a lot of credit, and he's gamely, bravely fought through this injury to play for him. But yeah, I think it's fair to say we can kind of pull back from that, assuming Purdy's healthy. He is going to be the guy. But once again, they suffer another huge injury with Fred Warner. That's their 2 best defenders going down for the season. Absolutely brutal. This is a guy who missed 1 game in his career prior to this point. An absolute warrior and a linchpin for that defense. And so, the hits just keep coming, and you can't say anything else, but how are they going to find a way? Kyle Shanahan's done a tremendous job this year. He's navigated everything that's been thrown at him. McCaffrey is getting stuffed in the run, making plays with his legs. They'll get some reinforcements back, but certainly not all of them. And Warner's just a massive loss. And You just have to assume they're going to need both quarterbacks down the stretch. Jones and Purdy better find a way to stay healthy and get this team across the finish line. The schedule sets up, the record is there, everything is in the right direction, but they're having to do it with a shell group right now.
Yeah, I sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because I was pushing the Bucs as the number one team, and once again, I just think they deserve to be there. This is a hot take for you. Fred Warner doesn't get hurt. I think the Niners win that football game. Even that first down run with Baker, which was like amazing to go and watch. He's kind of breaking through tackles and laying out and getting fired up. Warner's in the game. I don't know if he picks up that first down for whatever that's worth.
Good call.
Right behind the Niners at 15 are the Patriots. Drake Maye, man, like there's like some positive juju going on around this dude. Like the Patriots, all of a sudden, they're not a doormat. Isn't it amazing? Like Vrabel and some of these roster adjustments, like what they've been able to accomplish. I think that win against Buffalo, and I don't know if you buy this, but I think that's just a tremendous confidence booster for this team where they start believing they can beat anyone.
Absolutely right. I mean, they still made plenty of mistakes in this game, left the door open, let Spencer Rattler move the ball on him, things like that. But Drake Maye looks so calm and so poised, like we're going to win this game. And I will make the throws that need to be made to make this happen. It was Stephon Diggs last week at Buffalo. This week it's Kayshon Boutte and his return to Louisiana. Demario Douglas had some big plays. So they've got some diversity offensively, right? We know Hunter Henry's there as well. They have other options. I wish the run game was a little more solid, but Maye can help make up for that with his scrambling too. The O-line suddenly isn't this terrible problem that we're talking about every single week. The penalties and the turnovers and the mistakes that we saw the first few weeks of the season, that's kind of been pushed to the side. So that Mike Vrabel quality is coming out and Maye is stepping to the forefront.
I'm going to leave you with this on the Patriots. They win on the road against Tennessee. They are a 5-2 football team with 4 straight wins, 3 of them in a row on the road. Just let that one just sit if you are a Patriots fan, and you can put your feet up on the desk and smoke one if you got one, because it is a big reason to celebrate with a whole lot of football still remaining. Meanwhile, Michael Penix, Thielen, Bijan Robinson, terrific. Drake London was a stud, but it's the defense that's been carrying this team. Where do they sit on Eric's list? The answer to that's coming up next. Back here on Power Rankings, Mike M and Eric at home with you, and this is Eric's rankings 17 through 24. The Falcons moving up 4 spots. They sit at 17, followed by the Bears, who get a nice win. The Vikings at 19, the Texans at 20. Don't look now, Carolina's looking for real. They're sitting at 3-3. They move up 3 spots. They're at 21. The Cowboys at 22. I cannot believe I'm seeing the Baltimore Ravens out a 1-5 record sitting at 23. You are what your record is, though. And at 24, it is the Arizona Cardinals. God, the injuries in Baltimore. Let's talk about a positive story here. The Falcons. Say what you want about this offense, and I know offensive guys get all the love. Eric, this defense is so legit, and I think that was on full display in what we watched against Buffalo.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they haven't allowed 300 yards to an opponent this year, right? Even if the Bucs kind of move the ball and, the Commanders put up 27 on them. I mean, it is tough to move the football on them. And when you have a guy like Bijan Robinson on the other side too, absolute weapon, and we could say maybe the best player in football like Raheem Morris did, that's gonna do pretty well, I think. And so the defensive strides they've made have been so good. Obviously, 2 Allen picks, 1 in each of the end of the first half, second half. This big time plays right there. And yeah, I thought about moving them up higher than 17. If they do that next week against San Francisco, I could see them going way up.
Yeah, on the road, too. I mean, I think we should be talking about them as a top 12 team or so. The Panthers, let's love them up here. Rico Dowdle, by the way, I'm really bad at math. It's like almost like 500 scrimmage yards or something like that in the last 2 weeks. Bryce is looking like Bryce. I mean, this is kind of a good product now.
A couple weeks ago, I was thinking, what is the future for Bryce Young? Is he progress? Is he going to make progress here? But he really has. And Ted McMillan, 2 scores on Sunday, made up for the drop that ended up as an interception. You're right about Dowdle, too. I mean, 473, I want to say, yards from scrimmage for a guy who wasn't starting to begin the year. So the Panthers are finding solutions within their own offense and kind of evolving and taking that proverbial next step. So I've been impressed, even with some pretty big hiccups this year. I mean, they've had some games where they look really good.
Daddle has said buckle up to the guys in Dallas. Look, he delivered, which I like. And by the way, Devontae Williams has been great for them. So it's a win-win for both sides. Meanwhile, the rest of the rankings, the Saints at 25, the G-Men 26, Cincinnati with Flacco, here we go at 27. We got the Raiders, the Dolphins, the Browns, the Tennessee Titans, and number 32, which is the New York Jets. Ouch. All right, the G-Men, are we buying this team? Because they're breaking my heart some weeks.
I'm buying the football bros. Dart, Scattaboo, even Wan'Dale Robinson, he made some big plays. So yes, I know they're your team, but I'm going to adopt them for this week. They've been terrific.
Yeah, look, no Malik Neighbors. I'll take the wins wherever they come. Eric, you're the best man. Thanks everyone for watching and listening to Power Rankings.